When my cousin lost her family, we decided to take her in. However, what she decided to do to me one day completely changed the course of our entire lives. She accused me of doing such a disgusting thing that I didn't even dare to repeat right now. But I will tell you that my family beat me to a pulp and then disowned me. I am 36 years old and I am facing a dilemma. I feel conflicted and very lonely today. I would appreciate any advice or help you guys can give me. First, let me tell you about my horrible cousin Sabrina. She is the most disgusting person I have ever known, and I'm not even embarrassed to say that about my blood relative. I tried to reason with Sabrina a few times, hoping that she would calm down when she grew up and realize that psychology and trauma make people do horrible things to others. But in the end, I could never forgive Sabrina, and I still hate my entire family. When I was a kid, I had a difficult childhood and suffered abuse at the hands of my cousin, Sabrina's father. He was a useless and abusive man, always drinking and smoking and never working. He was abusive to Sabrina, and Sabrina's mother was little better. I am well aware of the effects trauma can have on people, especially at such a young and impressionable age. However, it is our responsibility as humans to learn from our own trauma so that we don't inflict the same pain on others. Unfortunately, Sabrina never learned this and became very much like her parents in many ways. My parents were always very aware of Sabrina's family life, so they were always supportive and even tried to intervene by calling Child Protective Services. However, when the authorities arrived, Sabrina's parents would always cajole and get out of the situation. One day, Sabrina's parents were involved in an accident when they were running from the police after robbing a store to fund their drug addiction. They crashed their car and died, and Sabrina was left an orphan. It was certainly a very difficult time, even for someone with parents as horrible as Sabrina's parents. Instead of allowing Sabrina to enter the foster care system, my parents stepped in and took her in. Although I never fully knew Sabrina, I have to say that she was healthy despite our strained sibling bond. And while all of my interactions with Sabrina when we were young children were rather awkward, I was initially excited at the prospect of having a little sister moving into our home. But unfortunately, I didn't know how much my life would change after this pivotal moment. My mom and dad weren't perfect parents, but they tried their best to provide for me and gave me all the support they could. However, I was always told that I had to be stronger because I was too soft. With self-esteem that was already low, Sabrina's self-esteem was even more damaged. My parents loved and exalted Sabrina very much. They were proud of Sabrina for throwing the best parties and getting the best Christmas presents. When Sabrina started going to school with me, my social life took a drastic turn for the worse. Her boyfriend was the captain of the soccer team, and he and his athlete friends tormented and bullied me, trying to make my life a nightmare. At the time, I was an awkward nerd, and Sabrina was an outgoing girl who loved her friends and gossiped about others. She was accepted into a group of popular guys and cheerleaders who enjoyed tormenting me. Sabrina laughed at me and shared rumors of my misfortune. I felt like I was living in a prison, and the torture continued over and over again. My parents didn't believe me when I told them about Sabrina. My father tried to comfort me by saying that it was just boys will be boys, and that I needed to pull myself together. Every time I received an unfair punishment, I felt even more depressed and worthless. Bad grades intensified my depression and feelings of worthlessness. I realized that I would not be able to get into my dream university and remained a prisoner in this house with my nightmare family. Sabrina continued her entertainment and neglect of me. Her friends and parents justified her actions. I felt hopeless and was sinking deeper and deeper into despair. Determined to escape from all these horrors, I pursued an engineering degree at a local college to find success and escape this home life. Unlike Sabrina, I had plans for the future. She dropped out of school and delved into the void of drugs and pleasure. My parents continued to support her and apologize for her actions. They saw nothing wrong with her and gave her free rein to further ruin my life. Time after time, Sabrina found new ways to hurt me. Then came the fateful day when I turned 21, and I realized I had to get away from this horror. She was the center of my attention. Everything revolved around her. Whenever something went wrong in her personal life, she pushed it onto others, especially my parents. They always did everything for her, even to the detriment of their own affairs. Sabrina was the center of the universe for us. I recently experienced heartbreak again when her boyfriend dumped her. That fool seemed to be only interested in himself. Sabrina was particularly upset and was in a terrible state. I tried to support her, but she was pouring all her pain into me. It was frustrating to see her suffer. Sabrina was never an expert at managing her emotions. She often acted cruelly and unfairly. She showed her anger at everyone else. My parents especially suffered from all her antics. But her main target was always herself. When something went wrong in her life, she would stop caring about others. But then, just before the event that changed my life forever, there was an argument with Sabrina. It was a common thing for us, we always argued. But this time was something special. I was tired of her humiliating me, and I told her that she could never hold any man. I was angry, and all the things I said were from the heart. But then something unexpected happened. My parents broke into my room and started yelling and hitting me. I was in shock and was afraid to know the reason for this intrusion. And then Sabrina came in crying. She looked at me inconsolably. I felt that something terrible had happened. Then Sabrina told me that she had terminal cancer. I didn't know what to say. Her voice was different, and I was shocked at what I was hearing. Learning that she was dying was traumatizing for me. That's how I heard about her condition, and even after all these years, I had a hard time accepting the news. Today, I faced a new challenge. I called her. Her number was saved in my cell phone, which I had gotten from my parents. I didn't know what to expect, but I called anyway. Sabrina had always been connected to my family, and she probably still lived with them. But her voice was different, and it broke my heart even more. She explained that she was dying of cancer. I couldn't say anything in response. It was painful to hear about her condition. It was the worst day of my life. I found myself homeless, rejected, and alone. But I resolved things on my own. I pulled myself together and started building my new life. I found a job, I was able to rent my own place, and now I only cared about myself. I haven't spoken to my family since the day they beat me up and disowned me.